Hi, it's Richard here from Experimentation. In today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Ton Wesseling, who's the founder of Online Dialogue, and we're going to be talking about how he got started in experimentation, some of the mistakes he's made, and much more. Hey Ton, it's Richard here. It's good to see you today. Yeah, I must admit, your course is actually one of my favorite ones on the CXL Optimizer course, the A/B testing guide. I think it was the A/B testing module. I think it was like a pretty full-on 5-hour module.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, so like I know you're one of the established players in CRO, and you've got an extensive background, and you're one of the early people who were doing CRO before it even was called CRO or A/B testing. Yeah, could you just let us know, or let the audience know, like how you got involved in this art and science, and what kind of mistakes you made, and what our listeners and viewers could learn from your mistakes?
Yes, of course. Hi, Richard. Thank you for having me in this podcast interview, and also some nice video attached to it. Um, I'm based in the Netherlands, broadcasting from my home now, which is a nice experience. I quickly had to set up some stuff, but it's working decently now. And in the introduction, thank you for this nice introduction. You said established, and every time I hear the word established, it makes me feel so old. I'm not sure if established, but I've been in the field for many years, like 20 years plus now. I think I ran my first experiments, A/B tests, maybe even in 1999. I'm not really sure, 2000. Was involved in analytics. So I had lots of time to make a lot of mistakes. I think the mindset of allowing yourself to learn from mistakes and look for feedback from people that are in the same industry and also are making mistakes, and help each other to learn. That helped me a lot to become more experienced. But I'm pretty sure I'm still making mistakes. So I think learning is a journey of life, and I'm enjoying
Tell
it.
me about your Sorry to interrupt. Well, tell me about your first how you actually got involved in like creating experiments. Like, do you know, like, were you just working intuitively? Because I saw in one of your interviews, I think you built this website and you just were making these incremental changes, and we will
Yeah,
probably
true.
call that like from a lean startup methodology. We would say you're
That,
making
that, that,
these
that, that,
iterative
wa-
changes and you're shipping that out.
yeah.
But you're probably just thinking, "Oh, I'll just make these changes," right? Intuitively.
There was no lean startup methodology back then, as far as I know of. What happened to
Yeah.
me is that I was lucky to be in university when the first normal web browser came along, the Mosaic browser that became Netscape. I think it was like way back in '93 or something, '94. I'm not really sure about the year. And also, I was lucky that my dad was building computers himself and making some money on buying several parts, building the computer, and then selling it again. So I always had like the newest computer. On university, we had a graphical web browser.
Hmm.
So I started to create HTML pages. And in the days of HTML, I'm not sure if it was 1.0 or 1.2 or whatever, the early days of HTML. And what I liked, I really fell in love with the fact that I was able to create something myself, put it out there like a product, virtual products, and then go to the log files. This was not doable at university, but at some point I had my home server connected to the web. Not
Hmm.
always, because it was quite expensive. So if my computer was offline, there was no website. But while I was online, I could see in my log files that people were visiting my website. And I could see that they were clicking on specific links I made in my text, like a wall of text with some hyperlinks, and it was the beginning of HTML. And then what started to intrigue me already is, okay, like first, wow, I have like 20 visitors from all over the world visiting my
Yeah.
website. Amazing. What can I do to get more visitors, to get them to click more, see more pages? And so I started to learn myself to build websites. And when I was done with university, my whole dream was, of course, to work at an internet startup. So
Yep.
I
What
enrolled
what
at
year
like
was that, by the way? Was that during the whole dot-com boom and late
it
nineties?
was like in late 90s, like I think 97, 98.
Yeah.
And it was I was like the first or the second employee of just a guy with some money, and he saw internet booming. Saw dot com printed everywhere in the States,
Yeah.
and the money he made was put in a new internet startup company with no specific plan, but they had lots of domain names. And in the old days, search engines were not that good. So if you wanted to look for something, you just typed in a domain name. If you wanted to go to a restaurant, you typed in restaurant.com or restaurant.nl for the local Dutch.
Is that the Vista days?
Yeah. It was Alta Vista
Yeah.
was like the big
Yeah, I
search
remember those
engine
times.
back
Yeah.
then. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you're also
Yahoo.
old.
Yeah, well, I won't say my age to my viewers, but yeah, I remember the Alta Vista days, and you had Ask Jeeves. This is like
Yeah,
97. Like, this is, before Google was even born. And
yeah.
yeah, like,
Uh,
I mean,
but,
yeah.
but, but,
Anyway, go on.
what I found it in at this startup that suddenly all these domain names were gathering, I think, like 100,000 users per day. So just people typing in a domain name. So at some point, I think the first year we just played around, had all sorts of plans, and we're not making any money. At some point, we had to start to make money. So what I did is just register our company for like every affiliate website there was out there. So I had lots of affiliate links and just created like a index page, like a starting page website as a placeholder website for all the people with typing in domain names, so domain name traffic. So suddenly I
Yep.
had 100,000 users, like lots of data. And then of course I wanted to optimize the clicks on affiliate links. So then the hypothesis became, okay, if people type in a country name .com or whatever TLD, then they are probably looking for holidays, maybe for a second home, a mortgage. Let's try if we move those affiliate links to the top, if we can make more money. So then I started, because I was able to program myself a little bit, I started to create, there were no APIs back then. So I had to create a script that was reading the back office from the affiliate companies. So we knew how much money we were making because the reporting was over there. Um, uh,
Oh,
and I knew the number of people on my website and the clicks, and it was still a funnel. As some affiliates were just not paying for the click, but paying for the sale. So we had to do some calculations to understand what was going on. But we were not really A/B testing. We were just sitting down, looking at the numbers, come up with hypotheses, and then make some personalization, segmentation, or full website changes, and just implemented them. And
so it was like a form of sequential testing. Like, you make the changes, then you see what happens after a period of time, and
yeah,
you sort of, yeah,
not really experimentation, because the way we were analyzing this was, okay, we launched this stuff on October 1st. Let's look at the data for the 2 previous weeks, and then let's look at the data at the 2 weeks after launching, compare it, and see what the difference is. But then you're not taking any external influencer in consideration. So that's not the best way to analyze. And at some point, I was telling what I was doing to, I can't really remember who it was, but that person told me, "Oh, I know from my direct marketing background that if we ship to like a city with
yep,
coupon codes, that half
yep.
of the city gets this coupon code, the other half gets this one, and then we just track response and see which one works best, and we ship it to the next city." And that's like proper split testing. And of course,
Yeah.
you can discuss if the sample is randomized enough in that specific way. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's what I should do. So then we started to do like JavaScript redirecting. So you opened up the website, whatever startpage.com slash index.html. And then after like 2 seconds, you could hear click on your computer. And then half of the audience was redirected to index2.html.
Oh gosh.
And then we were able to track differences on clicks. And then we finally started to analyze in a proper way what the result was of our actions. And of course, it was not the best setup because people could see the internet was slow back then. So your web page was still building like this. So if you were building and then click and onto the next page, some people just dropped out. But it was
How did
already
you
better.
how did you declare winners? I mean, because did you know about statistical significance and p values and
No,
things like that, or
no.
was it just like, hey, this change got 200 more clicks, and you just sort of intuitively
We didn't
making
know.
guesses, like
And the stupid thing is, because I studied management science, so I had some
yeah,
statistics and research classes. So I knew about standard deviations and effect sizes. But then once you see the results, okay, this page is giving us like 3,000 euros a day, but this second version is giving us 3,300 euros per day, like 10% more money. Well, let's
yep.
implement the one that brings the
So
money.
so
Uh,
money wins, right? This is
but of course, nowadays with my knowledge of sample sizes, power calculations, significance, false positives, true positives, and so the whole statistical thing of A/B testing, we made lots of mistakes because we also segmented the data a lot. Like, okay, oh, but for this specific browser or this specific IP number group, or this specific set of domain names, the behavior is different than this specific set. So we just analyzed and analyzed and analyzed, and it was all command line analytics. We didn't have any software package running or whatsoever, just server log files, which is also not the best way to
uh,
track
this is
this kind of
purely
stuff.
log files. This is like before GA, Google Analytics, or any other,
Yeah,
Clicky, or any other sort of.
I remember Urchin popping in like 2002 or something, 2003. I think Google Analytics
Mm,
only became successful like 2005 when they
I think
transferred to
so.
Google Analytics.
Was
So
it Urchin
before,
that Google bought Urchin, didn't they? Like they
yeah,
built this startup and then it became GA.
we're
Yeah.
becoming like the Wikipedia of internet history now. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, no. So, but but the good thing is, I just kept talking to people on what I was doing. The bad thing was, in that specific company, I was not allowed to publish anything on the web, because it was like our big secret, according to the owners of the company, what we were doing. But I was able to talk to people and then learned, if you take a look at statistics, you've implemented this variation, but the data shows like inconclusive. There's no significant effect measured. But there's 300 euros more money per day. What's not
Yeah.
significant about that? So I had to learn the hard way. But I think that because kept talking, and at some point I left that company like 2006, and then started working for a larger organization who was really pushing to spread and go out and present and write blog posts about what you were doing, which was what I started doing in 2006, 2007. And then I learned so much by just sharing my stories. And maybe we were lucky that back then blogs were really popular. Like Twitter was non-existing yet. It just started early 2007 to gain some
Yeah.
traction. So if you wrote a blog post, you could just write a post saying, okay, this is what I'm working on. This is not finished. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, but this is what I'm doing. Then you had like 45 comments on people just jumping in. Oh, but what you're doing here is kind of strange. And what you do. So a really fresh way of learning. And sadly, when Twitter came in, the conversation just vanished from blog posts to Twitter, which is like way shorter, 140 characters back then. And luckily nowadays on LinkedIn, you can have a decent discussion. But the sad thing is that most people, if they post something that's not finished, like that they're clearly only in the field for 2 or 3 years, they post what they're working
Mm.
on, or I had this big success on this specific A/B experiment, and then sadly people were jumping and like a big thunderstorm and blaming them that they're doing this wrong, forgetting about the fact that they also made all the failures themselves, all the mistakes themselves. It will be good that people are. I hope they will become a little bit more nicer once they heard this interview. That if you see something wrong about A/B testing or statistics or whatsoever, a CRO posted on LinkedIn, just give proper feedback in a positive way, because these people are learning. And I was lucky to be able to learn to blog postings. And nowadays, I think
Mm.
LinkedIn is the best platform to share.
Yeah, I've
Maybe some
noticed.
Slack communities out there are also good, which is less violent than the public of LinkedIn. But it's the way I've learned, and so I'm old, experienced.
Well, I mean, it's a very nascent industry. I mean, it's only, was it called CRO 10 years ago? I think it's only been, it's only,
It's that's a good thing to state. There's always every 1 or 2 years somewhere on Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever channel, this discussion pops up, like who invented the name conversion rate optimization. It was Brian and Jeffrey Eisenberg. There are some companies
uh,
claiming that they found coined the term conversion optimization. It was the Eisenberg brothers who were already running the Future Now agency, I think back in the 90s. First, they were in search engine optimization, and they were the first to write about conversion rate optimization, I think back in 2002 or something. I had this long night chat and discussion to find out who was the first. In the end, we found out. And of course, Brian and Jeffrey also confirmed that they were the ones. So it was around in 2002 or 2003. I think their book, Waiting for a Cat to Bark, which is 2006 or 2005, was the
yeah.
first book really talking about conversion optimization and persuading users and motivating them to do something else than they were planning to do to help them, to give them that little push.
Do you
Waiting for a
think
cat to
that,
bark.
do you think it's a misnomer though? Because I remember in your one of your talks, I think it was called CRO jobs or dial or something like that. That CRO is, conversion rate optimization. It's like kind of it's not an accurate thing for what you want to do. Like, it's, just focusing on, like, it's giving the industry the wrong sort of focus. Like, I think you said that your focus should be on growth and, actually helping a company to get further ahead. Whereas conversion rate optimization, yeah, you could optimize for clicks, but, is that the right KPI we want to be optimizing for? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe you could explain a bit more about that.
yeah. I think I stated that back then at CXL Live in like 2018 or 19. Those
Mm,
conference years just before COVID, and Conversion Jam also in the Nordics. I stated CRO will die. Um,
yeah,
the background story is that we have marketing departments, we have product departments, product teams, we have service teams, we have engineering. There's not going to be like a conversion optimization team on that level, like next to product or marketing. It's part of all
mm,
those teams. Like the engineers should validate every line of code they ship, security, bugs, but also on conversions. Product teams are trying to have a better product for the user. So they're researching and experimenting. Marketing teams want to have new clients coming in for less money per client. So they're experimenting. So it's throughout the whole company that you are running experiments and practicing what we now call CRO. But then also conversion optimization is optimization or continuously on an agile approach, validating and experimenting, being data driven, insights driven, whatever it's in the name. So, but the job itself, it doesn't make sense to have a product team or a marketing team with a conversion specialist in there. There will be a
yeah,
copywriter, there will be a designer, there will be a developer, there will be a product owner, but not a conversion specialist. They all should have conversion knowledge. So this is why I said this specific job will die, and of course it will take lots of years. But it's the thing we should strive for. We should strive for the fact that there are no conversion specialists anymore in a specific company. If there are no, if there have never been conversion specialists, that's the first step to take. But once they are in, at some point they should be out of the company, and everyone should be doing practicing CRO, experimentation, validation, being data driven. So this is why I stated this: CRO will die.
and may I just play devil's advocate, because, if you don't mind, because, let's just say it might be a good idea that everyone, takes on CRO as, as part of their role, but, not everyone is maybe not so technically inclined to, understand statistics, or, how these A/B testing platforms work, or, um, not. I think to be a good CRO, from what I'm learning, is you've got to have quite a lot of in depth skills, and well, you've got to know a bit of everything. Like you perhaps know some analytics, UI UX, psychology, those kinds of things. Do you think it's what you're saying is maybe somewhat aspirational, and not always totally realistic for everyone to sort of take that on board?
For me, conversion optimization is a task for
Yeah.
someone or a team in a company, and experimentation is a mindset or culture for within a company. So I believe everyone should have an experimentation mindset. So open
Yep.
to learn new stuff, open to try. Failure should be an option because you can only learn faster if you fail. And then CRO specific tasks. So a specific product team, which is a larger company, of course, in this specific description,
Yep.
will have a specific KPI to raise whatever new clients coming in with 20% in the next 6 months. And how are they going to do this? They need to understand user behavior. They need to do some interviews, data studies, come up with hypotheses, run some split tests, A/B experiments, A/B tests on their assumptions. So you need everyone, and of course, the things falling short in those organizations. I'm not talking about like a lone wolf in a small organization, but in the large organizations, you always see that they're not having enough consumer psychology knowledge on the one hand, so theoretical background, and they're not enough aware about statistics, all the statistics behind the decision making through A/B testing. The way to solve this is, of course, to have a centralized, like, center of excellence supporting
Mm.
all those teams in that specific role. So a behavioral lab or a experimentation center of excellence that's facilitating, guiding quality, teaching. They're not running experiments themselves. They're helping other teams to make experimentation more easy and more successful. But of course, if you're a small company and not having the luxury of like centralized centers of excellence with decentralized teams running their own experiments, and you're just like a 20 people e-commerce team, then
Yep.
you are probably searching for a combination of an analyst slash researcher on the one hand and a designer slash front end developer on the other hand, and those two
Mm.
combined can really create some magic for your company. And then they probably need, hopefully, that designer has a background in psychology back from university, and then became a designer. That would be like
It's
the
really
magical
hard to
combination.
get though to get the psychologist, and I think I read in a previous interview that you're someone asked you what makes your agency different to others, and you said that basically you incorporate a lot of the psychological principles, and that's something like that I learned from Ruben. He's huge on really applying psychology and really going in depth into the research. And I mean, I can say from my experience being here in Australia, it's not no, it's quite nascent, the CRO industry here, and I don't think that many agencies really have that many like specialists with CROs with like that deep psychological foundation. Like they might be good at some of the tactics and
Yeah.
things like that. But I think psychology's. I mean, we're serving experiences to humans. At the end of the day, that
Yeah.
are going to be
Yeah,
going through these experiences.
I fully
Yeah.
agree, of course. But to give my 2 cents on this, but this is based from gut feel, so it's just a hypothesis without real
Yep.
data backup. I've started the online dialogue agency because we are an agency back in 2009. I just started 1 year before that a broader digital marketing agency with the goal of becoming like the analytics and conversion digital marketing partner of larger companies in the Netherlands. Um, didn't like the way the company was evolving. To me, it was too broad, like too much development. Also, design like a broader agency, and also total focus on billability, hours that needed to be made. Let's hire young people. We're only charging a low amount, but making good margins.
Yeah.
So I started online dialogue, and this was after I met my co-founder, Bas Guts. Ah, look at this! Suddenly, the bow tie is there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
nice
noticed that
coat.
I didn't I didn't want to be rude. I kind of thought you had put this bow tie on there, and I was like, oh, maybe he's just,
No, I was.
you know,
It was on
maybe it's just
accident.
his character. So um,
So
anyway,
I met Bart at an
yeah,
assignment at the previous agency I started back then, and suddenly my world opened up. So, oh, because his background is in consumer psychology, and he was
yeah,
working at a large web design company where they were creating like big redesigns for their clients, and his input was based on theory from consumer psychology. But then they just designed, they developed the website, and then it was shipped, and then the project was done. And I was on the other side running experiments, trying to optimize those new designs from those companies. But my experiments were mostly focused on usability tweaks, some copy tweaks, button colors, sizes, shapes, things I could think of. Because I'm not having this consumer psychology background. And then I was like, oh, but Bart, you can test your assumptions, your theoretical assumptions from consumer. We could test it on a website. It will be really fascinating. And he was like, can you test that? Yes, you can run a split test. This is how we run split tests nowadays. So, and
yeah,
then the marriage was born. And both our characters, our DNA is we want to learn. We want to move forward, learn. We're not in it for like the big money, building a big agency. We want to be like the best in this field.
yeah,
So this agency has always been built on lots of time devoted to what we call knowledge time, studying, learning, publications, and our billability is like way lower than a regular agency. Our average age of employees is way older than a regular agency. So if you're looking at these behavioral scientists you want to hire for your agency, going from the scientific world to the agency world to the marketing world is like going to the dark side. That's something that's not seen as a good thing to do. Of course, they know you can make money at agencies, probably more than in science, but
yeah.
it's the dark side. And
Is it
I
seen
believe
as maybe like you're not, is it seen dark side in terms of like because it involves making money, and maybe they view it as you're manipulating people to do things
in the
that,
end,
to buy more.
the companies you're working for just want to separate their customers faster from their money. And you're trying
Yeah,
to motivate
yeah,
them. And the thin line, there's a thin line between motivating people and telling them, yes, you are able to do this, to give them the ability, the motivation. There's a thin line to manipulating people.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
uh, Persuasion, is that manipulation, or is what's going on here? So it's a dark side, and we always had a ethical agreement for all our clients and also all our employees. I think that's because one of the founders' backgrounds, Bas' background, is consumer psychology, and
yeah,
we always devoted a lot of time to really understanding consumer behavior. So we're not in this for the quick win. We really want to teach our clients how to learn more from their customers and how to do this in a scientific, valid approach. And that in the end will bring you way more money because you're going to create new products, new customer journeys, like bigger steps. So I believe our agency environment is kind of safe for behavioral scientists to move to. It's like a less big step than a. No, I'm now just like putting them in a box like a normal agency. There are many agencies out there that are not like a normal agency, but like the lots of
you
young
mean the sort of
people.
churn and burn sort of agency where they just want to,
Yeah, yeah,
they
growth.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, they just
So
just want to get a lot of clients and just add them on, and yeah,
I fully understand that behavior scientists are not really willing to work for those kind of companies. So the bigger
yep,
agencies have lots of trouble finding behavioral scientists, which I think we have lots of ethical questions to ask about our work. But it will be different for everyone. If I'm able to look in the mirror every morning and just telling myself, am I still happy with the work I'm doing? And if I can still proudly talk about it on birthday parties and to my kids, that's my ethical border. So it
Mm.
will be different for everyone. It's a subjective border, but I think it's an important thing to discuss in this field.
Yeah, so I could just to let our viewers know, I guess the being able to go to bed at night time is a litmus test for, if you've crossed from the light side to the dark side of experimentation and CRO. I'll just going back to the earlier chat about, when you were building out the websites and for the affiliates and making a lot of mistakes. Just for our viewers, what kind of like what I guess for like newbie CROs, people who are thinking about or just getting the into this profession, like what kind of advice would you give to these people, um, in terms of mistakes that you already made that they can already learn from and had advanced their careers and so forth.
There's so many things. Let me first toss up the power calculation.
Yep.
You can calculate upfront uh, what the chances are of finding an effect in your A/B experiment, if there is an effect to be detected. And it's kind of strange calculation because you have to tell yourself, okay, I'm thinking that this variation will create a 5% effect. I want to run this experiment for like max 4 weeks, so this is the amount of data I'm collecting, and then I can make a calculation what the power level is, and suddenly you will learn that on some of your pages or templates or even websites or apps or email, wherever you're testing, your power is like 10% or 15%. So
Mm.
it means that if you run this experiment for 4 weeks and there is in reality a 5% effect in the variation compared to the default, then you only have a 10% chance of having a significant effect in your experiment. So if you run this experiment 10 times, only one of them will be a winner, 9 times it will be inconclusive or maybe even a significant result depending on your p-values. And so there are so many tests run, and I've also run many experiments on web pages and templates that, looking back, I was never going to find a winner on those pages just because there was not enough data. And that's a pity because you have invested all this time in creating the hypothesis, design, development, and then you run this
Mm.
experiment and it can never win.
Is that due to
So
like a low traffic site or web page or
yeah, and underestimating the amount of users and conversions you need to have a high enough power.
and just to get it back into what users can learn. I mean, this is probably what I'm going through sometimes at work myself. Is that I mean, and I want to know your opinion on this. Now, I think was it Pete Laya from Conversion Excel? He said in one of his blogs that he'll only consider variations. Well, 250 conversions per variation. And if it's below that, then he's not gonna like really take that data seriously. Um, but in practice, you don't always get nice data points where it's 250 plus conversions per variation, and you might have like double digits. Like, what would you have to say about that? Like, what's your opinion on his perspective? Is it too rigid? Would you look at other sort of points of data to make a conclusion?
Pep probably wants you to connect him to the Winter brand and not to the to the CXL brand nowadays. But this is probably one of the older posts on CXL back
It's
then.
still there, yeah.
There are many models out there. I once created the ROAR model: risk, optimization, automation, and rethink, as a rule
Yeah.
of thumb model, which is like almost the same. And this model says if you are below 1,000 conversions per month, and a conversion can be anything, like can be a click, can be a transaction, can be lifetime value, whatever metric you're optimizing for.
Yep.
If you're below 1,000 per month, you should not run experiments. You're in the risk phase. You're too low on data. You can still do your user research and so on. You have some data, and just you can still create a hypothesis, but you're not able to run you can run the experiments, but the outcome will probably be inconclusive. So you just need to implement and take the risk. And of course, you can do some fake door testing to really understand if this hypothesis potentially can be true. But you're in the risk phase. And if you are above 1,000 conversions per month, then you are starting in the optimization phase, but still have to
Yeah.
make big effects. And if you come above 10,000 conversions per month, you are big enough to have like a full-blown conversion optimization team and are ready to start embedding CRO experimentation in the DNA of the organization. But if
Would you
you're
still have
if you,
a oh, sorry, go on.
yeah,
I was
if you're
Would you still have a test for like how many would you still have a rule for how many conversions per variation though?
well, if you have 1,000 per month or below, it means you have 500 conversions
Oh
per
yeah, yeah, yeah.
variation. And of course, the power calculation is based on users and conversion. So this is like a rule of thumb model. If your conversion rate is really high, then you have different numbers. Then your conversion rate is really low. So it's something you should calculate. But it's a rule of thumb. But if you're below that, if you are really low on data, and of
Mm,
course, you can start looking at click-throughs, but it's really easy to move clicks. It's really hard to move the needle at the end where transactions or leads or whatever you're optimizing for. So you can easily fool yourself by having people click a lot on a specific area you're optimizing, but in the end, not bringing any money to the company. So if you're if you're low on data, I still would recommend experimentation as a research solution. But then just buy some users on Facebook or TikTok or whatever channel. Try some hypothesis in some campaigning material in an A/B experiment, and that's quite affordable user-wise to experiment and have that specific learning if your phrasing is right, and then you can translate it to your website. But you are in the risk phase, so you can still do lots of research, experimentation on external platforms, maybe some click-throughs, but be careful with that. And you just need to grow your company first before you can proper embed experimentation as a way to grow the company.
and just to explain, I won't go into specific details about the experiments I'm doing at my company, but just for privacy reasons. But some of the issues that we've had in our company is, we've had like we've reached stat sig for reaching like people clicking the CTA, but then further down the funnel, we're getting like single digit conversions at the bottom of the funnel, and it's kind of hard to really. I mean, you'd probably be able to analyze my data a lot better, but it's kind of hard to make a confident conclusion around that because so what? More people click
What
on the CTA or go to this page, but
the least thing you can probably do is that if they click on the CTA more, these people will end up at a next step on the application or the website. You could measure if they have some interaction with the next step, or do they leave immediately and go back to the previous page. So you
mm,
could set up a set of metrics, like guardrail metrics, that will give you a little bit more information if this effect could potentially be good. But in the end, your decision will be less trustworthy. So you're going to take more risk because probably the effect on the final number, like transactions, is not big enough because of low data. So you never will know if you're looking at a inconclusive or a true positive.
how do you know in that case that I'm not in my situation, what would you do to prevent a false positive? Because I don't want to go and release an experiment where, we get like 10% people clicking here and going to this page, but then they don't end up buying at the end of the day.
Yeah, the good lesson, if you're experimenting on low data, which is also the case if you're still below 10,000 transactions per month. So a lot of
Yeah,
people are low on data, even if 3,000 transactions in A, 3,000 in B. You can always do the experiment where you calculate, you're measuring a specific effect size. Oh, we have a 21.7% uplift. Amazing. It's a
yeah.
significant effect, measure result. If this effect is going to be true, right, you can reverse the calculation and calculate with the power calculation how many users you really need to detect this specific effect. So you can reverse the calculation to give a little bit more understanding on what's going on. Can this really big effects possibly have happened, or is it just because I'm low on data and I'm looking at the false positive?
Mm.
That's one thing to do. The other thing is, of course, if you look at a full time series of experiments, if you've run like 40 experiments or 50 experiments, and you call winners at a 0.05 p-value or maybe 0.1 p-value, um,
Yeah.
one-sided, two-sided, whatever, uh, you can take less risk, more risk. You can calculate how many experiments would have won anyway. Because if they all would have been the same, like no effect, like A against A for the experiments, you will
Yep.
find some winners, which are called the false positives, because there's an equal spread of p-values. So once you've done 40 experiments and you know the outcomes of p-values, you can plot the spreads on the expected spread of p-values, and then you can probably tell what the total shift is of the ones being implemented, and even do some corrections to analyze what the chances are of the ones you've seen as winners that are implemented are potentially be false positives. And then, of course, you can always do retesting, but the trouble is with low data that your power is probably too low to do a retest that is not becoming inconclusive. But if it's a really expensive change you're implementing, then it could be good to do the retest. Like if you're changing the logo of a company that's been around for 60 years to something new, which is a really high cost change because everything from the company needs to be changed. Like
Yeah.
the paperwork, the design on the building, the website is expensive. So you don't want to just run one experiment on that new logo to see if it has more clicks or transactions before you make that specific decision. It's like too expensive to base it on one experiment.
I mean, with retesting, would you consider just doing a stronger effect? Um, so that I forget that the MDE is ends up being a higher percentage, if I'm correct. So you basically have basically have a stronger effect on the experiment when you're retesting to like to have another go. If you know what I mean.
To me, if you're low on data, or it means that your company is selling expensive goods like
Yep.
homes or mortgages or really expensive watches. And this is typical, not something you can really easily run experiments on the website. Maybe on your lead gen, like generating leads and email collection, you can run experiments on those, but probably not on the sale. But this is also a typical business that's like a one-on-one account manager business. It's a different ballgame. If you are in
Mm.
a normal priced business where your potential market size is big enough to have 100,000 transactions per year, 10,000 per month, but you are only at like 50 conversions per month or even 500 conversions per month, you have to think about how to scale up your company. How do you stand out? How do you differ? So all your research should be focused on, okay, I need to be 10 times bigger. What's going to be the change that really makes a difference? Is it the product offering? Is it the branding? Is it the way we present ourselves? You need to stand out at somewhere. Maybe it's price, quality, whatever, to make the difference. So you want to run more like business experiments on that specific level, with less trustworthy outcome, but lots of research, lots of hypothesizing, lots of trying, pivoting the business until you hit the jackpot. And then once you start growing, you can start applying experimentation really in growing your customer base and growing your digital product or service or whatever you're offering or selling with experimentation. So it's to me, if you're small, some companies just want to stay small. They're okay with having
Mm.
200 sales per month. That's fine. And then why implement a whole experimentation program to validate everything? It's good. The only thing is good, which I'm not emphasizing enough, in my opinion, is
Yep.
that the reason why they should run the experiment if they're low on data, is that you really want to make sure if you're implementing something new that is not killing your business, not hurting your business. So you probably will not find any winners. They all will be inconclusive, but some experiments are potentially a large negative impact. And this is why you want to validate before you ship. So if you're a
So
small
validate
company,
what not to do.
yeah, it's more like
Validate. Yeah.
non-inferiority testing. It's like, okay, we're going to make a big change to the checkout funnel. We know we are too low on data to run experiments to optimize transactions, and because they will all be inclusive, but we will still ship the new funnel as an A/B experiment because we
Yeah.
really want to understand if it's not hurting the business or has bugs, errors, security leaks, or whatsoever.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. It's really helpful. And just going to the last part of our interview. Yeah, again back to people who are say new to CRO or they're thinking about getting into this profession. What would you like? What would you say makes a good CRO? Like, what's the foundational things they should work on? You've mentioned psychology is a huge thing, um, and probably something that's a missing link for a lot of CROs. Yeah,
I'm
but
the
are there
person
any good
says
habits?
I'm the person saying that the CRO job will die. So you're asking
Oh
the
yeah,
person that
sorry.
thinks that the
Well,
CRO
maybe I should
job.
get another job then.
No, but there will be CRO specialists and CRO managers in the next 10 years. I'm fully aligned with that, and hopefully their job titles will disappear and just become the regular day of work for product and marketing and so on. But what I've always seen fell short at a lot of people entering the field, even broader, also digital marketing, is their understanding of the products and the company they're working for. So if you start working for whatever, Coca-Cola,
Yeah,
you want to know about the history of the company, the values, you want to read the annual reports, you want to read about the goals, the things they want to achieve. I'm not sure what Coca-Cola is selling on the website, but they're trying to sell something. They're trying to reach certain goals, and don't be that person in that specific team on that little island, not thinking about the world around you. Understand what the company is striving for. I've seen teams optimizing a specific product really successfully. And then after 6 months, big presentation to upper management because they lifted sales of this product with like 45%, and they could prove it with the real sales numbers that all the implementations were successful, and big party ahead. And they were looking at, oh, we're going to get a big bonus now also, which is not a good thing to do as short-term motivation, but that's a different story. And then
yep,
the first thing the manager said, I was there in that specific meeting, so I was also responsible for the mistake. That manager said, well, but this product, we already reached the sales target for this product like in February of this year. We don't
yeah,
need to sell more of this product. Our problem is within this product. That should have been the product that was going to be optimized. But the team was so focused just on looking at the data and oh, but this product has way more users and there's lots of stuff we can still change. So they were just looking at the numbers, and from that they were looking on where they could have the biggest potential uplifts, and they started optimizing that specific products while business was not waiting for the optimization of that specific products. So understand what the goals of the company are, because in the end you also need buy-in from upper management. So you need to be on speaking terms.
Do you think that better communication would have prevented this issue? Because this sounds like a typical silo effect, which can happen in a large organization.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
but then the trouble is that once everyone needs to meet with everyone to be aligned, then everyone is only meeting and not doing any work. So there
yep,
is a trade-off. It could be that two product teams are doing the same research study, same usability study, running the same experiment, which is
yep,
fine. Because if all those teams need to communicate with each other, that's going to be a mess. But this specific thing, should have been really, really clear. So it's also the responsibility from upper management to make it clear to the teams that this are the goals. But of course,
Yep.
also the responsibility for the teams, if they don't know what the goals are, to ask to upper management what the goals are, which we did not do because our task back then was just to optimize, and we totally forgot about the fact that that company goals are really important once you start optimizing.
And I mean, and not knocking you because you work in an agency, but I do know from experience that this can happen with agencies helping out clients is because um, you know they're not because they're providing a service to a client. They may not know intimately all the history about the products or services, and due to I don't know constraints of time and budgets, they may not have time to go learn the history of Coca Cola and the history of all these products and stuff. Yeah. So what would you say, like um, to that? Because it can be quite difficult running an agency and not knowing the product from inception and all the
Uh,
history and things like that.
it's tough. I do believe it's a responsibility for the client hiring the agency to have an onboarding for their client, like they onboard new
Yeah.
employees. Because if you onboard your agency, they probably will be more successful than when you're not onboard them. But this is just like a hypothesis. I have no data to back this up. This is gut feel. But it kind of makes sense to have a soft landing of your new agency in your company.
Yeah.
But the trouble is always if the client is not doing this, and you as an agency are telling the client, "Oh, we need time to really study your product and your company," and oh, but you're not making any money in those hours for us. No, that's true. It's a long term investment. We just need 80 hours first to really study the company, to have some meetings before we start working. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of expensive. Yes, but in the long run, we're going to make way more money for you. And it's a trade off. It's a balance. I remember from the days when I was more actively involved in the operations of the agency.
Mm.
That our first month was always double charged. So if we had like a recurring fee, like a retainer fee, the first month would be double just to set up stuff. And that was seen as okay, as doable. And then of course we also knew that we had to deliver if we were hired just for growth and not for
Yep.
embedding experimentation in the organization. If we were hired for growth, we had to deliver results like within 8 to 10 weeks. Otherwise,
Yeah.
the client would become like a potential client leaving your agency. Yeah, so it's a
It's that tension, right? Because like I can understand their point of view because they might be like, "Hey, well, we just want to sell these items, and what are you doing research? Wanting 8 hours of research, and you're billing us double in the first month." It's but then again, your case is that we really need to know and understand your product and your business and the challenges you're facing and your competitors because that will give us a better holistic understanding so that we can actually deliver better results at the end. So do you think communicating that to client is can be difficult because you're coming from two different angles
It's.
sometimes?
I believe the market is getting more mature, but it could be that my perception is wrong because my position towards those agency conversations is more like I'm just the owner of the agency
Yep.
and founder. I do consulting myself, more high level strategic consulting, and lots of workshops and trainings and presentations and lots of studying and writing articles. Because I just want to keep on learning. I love this field. So
Yeah.
from my perception, the market has become more mature, and companies, a lot of companies really understand how an agency can bring value. So they are okay with this. Not every company, but I see them open up more and more. But it could be that I'm just being approached myself by companies that are ready for the experimentation culture and just want to hire me as a consultant to help them grow this experimentation culture faster. So then I have the wrong perception of the market. So I'm not sure, but it seems it's getting more mature. But also, the number of clients available in the market is so much bigger for agencies nowadays. If I look back 10 years ago, we really had to go cross border from the Netherlands to find enough clients that were willing to do some A/B testing and CRO with us, and that we were allowed to make money for them. But nowadays, there are so many clients already in the Netherlands that all agencies are growing, and I see that in many countries surrounding the Netherlands also. So then you can be more picky at a client because you have toxic clients. And my advice would always be, it's tough to dump a client that's bringing you money, especially if they have to pay salaries from employees. But a toxic client is killing your business and your employees will leave. So dump them immediately and a better client will return.
So the advice, and I was going to ask, what are the challenges of running a CRO agency, but I guess you've kind of answered that already. Is not is to dump toxic clients that make your life hell and make work miserable, and
Life is too short to spend negative energy on stuff.
Thank you very much for your time, Ton. How can just for the listeners of this show, how can people contact you and get in touch with you?
I still have my own personal website, tonw.com. But you just type in my name on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It will pop up, even in Google.
What's your Twitter handle?
Ton W. But the Ton is a naughty one because I'm not Tom with like Maria Tom. I'm Nico Ton, which is hard for most people outside of the Netherlands. But if you type in Ton Wesseling A/B testing in Google, you will see my social profiles and websites pop up. And do please connect and let's learn from each other. And I think next time I will also ask that I'm allowed to interview you, because I'm also really interested in the challenges of people in the industry on every maturity level. It's good to learn from each other. So if you're open to that, next time we will turn it around.
Yeah, it's hopefully maybe in 10 years' time will I get up to a level that I'm able to
No, because it's good to
say
it's
some.
good to share your challenges and things. I'm also still sharing stuff that's probably not completely right or maybe even wrong. I don't know, and you don't know until you share it.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think what you said before, I think it was before this we went on air, was, or maybe at the start, was just about how people were maybe who are making comments on blogs and stuff, me to be a bit more nicer and have better constructive feedback, and instead of just slamming people down hard. And because it's in the sort of industry, it's quite nascent, and it's people will need to go out there and have the courage and bravery to go out and just try things. And like you said, in your early days, you made so many mistakes, and you learn from them, right? Like that's just how you learn. And there's no other way. Like mistakes, unfortunately, it's probably my experience is the best way to learn from. As long as you actually learn from them, it's the best sort of learning tool, because you've gone through this process, and you feel that emotional pain, and you know what it's
Yeah,
like to.
and
Yeah.
maybe you have to prepare yourself for negative feedback. If I look at my own kids, I got 3 kids, learning to ski.
Yep.
The kids that were okay with falling down and didn't care
Yep.
about having all this rolling down the snow and so on, they learned to ski way faster than the ones that were too afraid to fall. So it's also we're not going to change feedback, how feedback is giving on LinkedIn in a day. So maybe
Yeah.
the ones writing about their challenges should also understand that there will be some hard feedback. But at least if you can see through that and understand that it's a process of learning faster, then that probably also helps.
So maybe learning some empathy, having empathy for each other, and putting yourself in each other's shoes would be the learning lesson. And we'll leave it at there. I think learning to ski and fall is a good thing. So thanks for the interview, Ton. It's been good talking to you, and we'll catch up next time.
Thank you, Richard.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.